Yo, what's going on, y'all? The boys are back once again. It is day 4, the final day here in Nashville, the final day for us here at the wonderful Grand Hyatt Pool. You see the city in the background. It's been a lot of fun, Aaron. It's been a lot of fun. By the way, your dancing video now, the jersey hit 1 million views.
I know.
That's what I was saying. How about that?
Viral. God, I can shake it. I can shake it, boys.
Again, I hope that we added in some evidence of Aaron and whether or not he can indeed shake it, even though it looks like Lil Man's got your moves, dude.
He's doing like a little stanky leg.
Yeah, it's all the little stanky leg in there. So look, so right now we're getting ready to leave, Aaron. You're done, right?
I'm done. I'm ready to head back to Atlanta. Yeah, it's been a hell of a 4 days. Is 4 days too long?
I'm not gonna lie. I'm feeling a little like my energy levels were so elite. The vibes are so incredible. And then ever since our night out, I've been kind of dragging ass a little bit.
I would say 3 days is good. You could knock down a day and just do 3 days. Would be ideal.
But I will say this though. Nashville's been awesome. Love this city. I would love to come back and get to explore it more. Grand Hyatt's been really, really just a great place to stay. So shout out. All right, let's dive into it. Let's start here. Since you're kind of doing an entire week recap, there's a few more teams that came in today. You had South Carolina, Ole Miss, and Tennessee. So we'll touch on those. But first, let's start big picture, Aaron. The week is wrapped up. Give me 3 takeaways. We'll go one by one. Give me 3 big takeaways that you have from this week.
Can I say that the SEC media should never go to Birmingham again after leaving a place like Nashville?
No.
I think that to me is number one. Like, Atlanta's good. I think
Atlanta was all right. Atlanta was a little spread out.
Nashville's phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
I think Dallas will be good. I do like the thought of having it in Austin eventually one day. I think it would be a great location. We don't ever need to go back to Birmingham. Ever again.
Okay. Now hold on now. I see. I wouldn't mind Birmingham still being in the rotation, but I get where it is hard. I mean, it's a little different for sure. But also though, you got to understand where it wasn't really in Birmingham, right? We were in Hoover, suburb of Birmingham, and it was attached to a mall basically. Like Birmingham as a city is a badass city. Birmingham's cool as hell. You ever been like downtown Birmingham?
Not Nashville.
But it's closer than you think. I'm telling you, bro. Birmingham's got like art, culture. Birmingham's cool as hell. But no, look, certainly I would look, man.
New Orleans into the mix. I do New Orleans.
New Orleans is definitely going to get in that mix. I would think for sure.
I think where the SEC is going as a brand, especially adding Texas and Oklahoma, I think Sankey's always at the forefront. It's and that's why it's a 4-day event and not a 1-day event like the Pac-12.
Yeah,
it's thinking bigger, making this a bigger deal. I'm sorry to Birmingham and to Hoover, you're not a big deal. Atlanta is, Nashville is, Dallas is, Austin is, New Orleans is.
Oh my God. This is not where I expected our 3 takeaways. But okay, but you know what though? I would say this. This was the most fun probably that I've ever had, even though last night was the first night that I have ever stayed in. Last night was the first day ever on a work trip. I guess that'd be one of my takeaways is I'm getting old. Because this is one of the first times ever. What is the first time either at a Senior Bowl or an SEC Media Days where I've gone an entire night without a single drink being consumed, and I just sat in my room and sit around that. I mean, 2 nights ago was so much fun, but damn, bro, I'm 34 now. I'm struggling. I struggled to bounce back a little bit. So my second biggest takeaway.
We're snaking it?
Yeah, I think we'll snake it. Okay. My second biggest takeaway from this SEC Media Week for me, I think it's that the death of Alabama has been greatly exaggerated. I know we've kind of gone 2 opposite directions on here because just yesterday you said, look, I guarantee you, Alabama not a contender. I'm not so sure, man. I think we've seen a few things from Saban's comments. Saban was talking about how, look, last year maybe they became a bit too Bryce-centric. They knew they had this credible talent. They started to rely on a bit too much. Talked about how they maybe applied too much pressure to that Alabama team, and you saw guys kind of crack under that pressure at times. And to me, this all speaks to a team that maybe a bit ironically, having a couple of the best players being so damn good, actually Well, and I can't even say it really took away from them because, like we talked about, I mean, they were literally
More
two
than
plays.
games.
Well, they were but also they were also 2 plays away from being undefeated. Like they finished second in the S&P Plus. Like that was a really good Alabama team that just had 2 losses that they kind of found ways to lose. So I would say this. This is not as talented of an Alabama team, but I can see a world in which they actually have a better season because they avoid those 2 losses. So I don't know. I came away thinking that Saban. Nope. I came away thinking that Saban has a firm grasp situation and that that he feels very comfortable with where they're at right now.
All right. My second takeaway is how elite these coaches are. I mean, to see every single day coaches come through these meetings and talk to these coaches. I mean, we did our coaches' rankings for all the conferences a couple months ago.
Yeah.
I remember there was, it might have been the Big 10 or maybe the Big 12 where I'm like, I honestly don't know who the hell the coach of certain teams are.
Yeah.
Same thing with the ACC. And I know maybe it's...
ACC's the worst.
Maybe it's because we covered the SEC, we talk about the SEC more, but I don't know. I think for the average fan of college football, if you look at the coaches in this conference from top to bottom, obviously you got, Drinkwitz and you got, Clark Lee at Vanderbilt that's still young in their careers, but I would say from like the top 10, it's a hell of a list.
No, I mean,
it is a hell. I mean, even adding Hugh Freeze into that list too this year, obviously, being back in the SEC at Auburn, you get the Lane Kiffins, the Brian. You have 3 of the top 5 coaches in America in this conference.
I mean, it's completely insane. It's funny because that was actually going to be my next takeaway was the old point. I don't know why there's only so much oxygen in the room, right? But all these teams are good. I mean, we did an SEC West preview on my morning show today, just kind of doing our rankings, whatever we think everybody's going to finish. And I made clear at the onset, I'm like, let's be clear about this. You're going to hear me say negative things about some of these teams, and it's not even to say that they're bad teams because they're actually not. Right now, in the Bill Connolly S&P Plus, the analytics system that I love that Connolly does, all 7 SEC West teams are in the top 30. All 7 of them are in the top 30 teams in the country. So if Arkansas could go play in a different conference, you're probably talking about an 8-9 win team, somewhere around there, maybe even more. If Mississippi State could go play in another conference, there'd be no way they'd be picked to finish last. I mean, they were good last year. They return a ton. They bring back their quarterback. So it is overwhelming the amount of good in this conference, and especially, I would say, in the SEC West, which won't matter next year as we'll be getting away from that.
I would say my last takeaway, I'll go to the quarterback position here. There's a lot being said about only 5 quarterbacks representing their teams here in Nashville, and should teams be worried? And the more I look at the teams that didn't take quarterbacks, like I talked to Lane Kiffin today about Jaxson Dart a lot, the more I'm not worried. Like, this conference has plenty of talent at the quarterback position. It is going to be a really, really good class of quarterbacks. And people talk about 2013, which was my class. We had Menzel, we had McCarron, we had Menenberger.
Oh, wow.
I think a couple more as well. Connor Shaw at South Carolina.
Okay, hell yeah.
Class of experienced quarterbacks, really good quarterbacks. The thing that's lacking this year is maybe experience, but talent-wise, this quarterback class could end up being just...
This all sounds like Carson Beck propaganda.
Joe Milton.
I know, but what's the actual...
Let's just say right now, let's just talk.
Joe Milton
has a chance to be a first round quarterback.
Yeah.
If Anthony Richardson could be a first round quarterback, Joe Milton could be a first round quarterback.
Okay.
Spencer Rattler has a ton of skills. I think Jaxson Dart is going to have a chance to have an explosive year. You know how I feel about Carson Beck.
So, okay, wait, Corey, before you list guys off, give me your top 5 SC quarterbacks in order.
Top 5 in order?
Yeah.
I don't even name Jaden. Jaden 1.
Okay. And who's the
2?
Okay.
Golly.
You know what's funny? I've kind of gone down on Arkansas as the week's gone on.
Have you?
Yeah, it's been no real fault of their own. I have no great reasoning because, I mean, again, they return a quarterback, they return Rocket, but the defense was absolutely putrid.
They don't have depth.
Changing over coaches.
Offensive defense. The receivers are inexperienced.
Yeah, it's just, and again, it's not like Arkansas would be good in other conference, but in that SEC West, I just don't still see him. Yeah, go ahead.
Jaden, KJ.
Yep.
I go Joe Milton.
Okay.
Carson Beck.
Okay.
Spencer.
And Spencer Rattler. So who gets left off
Jaxson
the top
left
five?
out.
Yeah.
Well, I think Jackson's going to have a hell of a year. I'm kind of torn on that one. Connor Wegman, I think he has a chance to have a really special year there at Texas A&M.
Are any returners that I'm missing getting left out of that list? Oh, how about A.J. Swan, dude? Has A.J. Swan got a chance to break in? Well, Vanderbilt's, yeah, Vanderbilt's going to be a bit.
Not with the team that's around him, no.
All right, my final takeaway from this SEC Media Days, again, it was going to be just how good the conference is overall, but it's that if I were a South Carolina fan, I would feel really, really good about what's going on with Beamer. Yeah, man, and maybe look, I can be prone to getting sucked into a cult of personality.
Yep.
Right, like I can meet a person and I'll immediately just become absolutely enthralled with them, and I'll start whatever. I can get bamboozled. I can get sucked in just by sheer force of personality. And when I watch Shane Beamer,
You got lassoed by Ted Lasso Jr.
when I see him talk, yeah, I mean he has that. Yeah, you're right. He does have that kind of unrelenting positivity to him as well, which I think goes a long way nowadays. But it's just that when every time I hear that man talking, somebody said this week, and it's one of the main quotes that stuck with me. It's like every time you hear Shane Beamer talk, you never come out on the other side and you're like, oh man, I feel worse about this, or I feel worse about that team. And then I think back and I think about how he took a South Carolina team that was awful, and then they went 7-6 without even a quarterback, like without access to a quarterback. Then I look at Spencer Rattler last year, and was it great? No, it was not great top to bottom, but it ended very strong. You end with a couple of huge wins, and then you finish 8-5. So 7-6, 8-5, you have a numerical improvement right there. You bring back Rattler, another year of Beamer getting, evolving getting to put his process, his culture in place. I am a bit worried about some of the transfers out that they had, and it's all kind of does make sense because it does feel like there's so many positive momentum. So why would people be hopping off the bandwagon now? But I think South Carolina is going to finish third in the East by Tennessee. Yeah, I know money, and I figured that they're. I don't know how their NIL
down with us. And he's like, it's. He said it's frustrating. You build a culture, you feel like it's extremely positive, everything's going the right direction. You have 2 massive wins last year, momentum's through the roof, and then 2 of your star players leave.
Yeah.
He said for different reasons, and you kind of got the feeling he wasn't going to necessarily say it, but I think it's a little bit to do with money, especially the locations they went to.
I guess one of the other major takeaways you could have is just that NIL doesn't matter. I mean, I get it.
It doesn't matter. It does matter.
No, I'm sorry. It matters. I mean, in terms of like in terms of fans being upset about it. Like being upset about NIL doesn't matter. Like once the games begin and you're in the middle of it, nobody is going to give a fuck how a player got there or why he chose this school. Like
the new norm.
Like yes, exactly. And it just feels like the new norm. And I don't, we've talked about that federal Congress. I don't think it's coming, but yeah, it just is what it is. You got to learn to sink or swim in this new environment. But that kind of brings us to what we want to talk about next, which was Lane Kiffin. And he told you something very interesting here just about 30 minutes ago on Sirius XM radio. What did he tell you?
Yeah, so it kind of ties into this NIL transfer portal era. And he's like, guys, it goes back to the culture piece that we just talked about with Shane Beamer. He said you can't build culture in today's game, or it's extremely difficult, especially for teams that aren't, the elite, like Kirby at Georgia. He could build culture because he still gets elite guys from the high school ranks that want to stay 3 or 4 years. Alabama could probably do the same thing too, but teams like South Carolina or Ole Miss that are, guys come in and then they go and leave and go to that next step. They go to Alabama or USC or Georgia. They move on. Your locker room is constantly rotating. It looks more like an NFL locker room instead of a traditional college football locker room. It's hard to build culture. because you're getting guys that show up that are 2021. They're only going to be there for a year or two. It's a quick stop. It takes a year or two to get them ingrained into your culture.
Yeah.
And then the freshmen that you do get, that you hope you get 3 or 4 years to teach them what the ways that we want to practice, work out, academics, on and off the field, they end up transferring because you did get a junior or senior to come in there to fill the void immediately because you know you have to win right now and you can't wait for a freshman to develop and grow. So it is almost impossible in today's game to truly build a good culture.
Well, so it's interesting. I definitely agree with the sentiment that it is harder than ever to build culture. And I mean, for Ole Miss, yeah, more so than anybody else. I mean, nobody has gone as head first into the portal era as has Ole Miss. Like, I do feel like they kind of feel as if, look, we're never going to be able to consistently win on that high school front. So if we maybe pour a lot of those resources into the portal, like that's where we can maybe have better success over some of the big guys. But there is a nugget in there that I kind of would want to ask Lane about, and that's, he says, it feels more like an NFL team. Well, that's who you need to study then, right? Because NFL teams have cultures. And granted, it's easier maybe when you have like a franchise quarterback that's around forever, or like if you're a Saints fan, listen to this, you think about like having like Cam Jordan on the defense for like the last 11 years. So
reset the tone.
Yeah. So certainly I would say that is a difference, but every NFL team is still a new team, right? And it's still new guys. And yet some places...
Because also the NFL, you also sign a contract. Like, unless you get traded, I'm signing a contract to be a New Orleans Saint for 3 years, 4 years, 2 years, whatever it is. Like, there is some sort of expectation from both sides of what this relationship is going to be. The problem now with college sports, there is no contract. You don't know. Like, a guy can pick up and leave tomorrow. Like, I think Lane said this too. Like, grad transfers in fall practice can pick up and leave.
Yeah.
If I'm a grad transfer and I'm not happy with how things are going, I could just go.
Yeah.
There is the loyalty aspect, the contract, employer-employee aspect is not there the same as the NFL. So I would say it is harder.
Well, loyalty in the NFL is also a tricky thing. I mean, we all know this. Like, a team will cut you. I don't care what kind of contract you sign. A team will cut you the second that you're no longer of use to them. So, like...
Yeah, no, it depends on what that's out. I mean, depends on the cap hit, too. There's a lot more goes into it. There is no cap hit for a college football player to leave and move on. It's a body. It's a body.
So it's not one-to-one, but I do think that you can still draw lessons from any consistent NFL culture, be it like a Bill Belichick, maybe even like Pete Carroll in Seattle, where you've seen him go through multiple iterations of quarterback, multiple iterations of defense, and still be able to maintain winning. Sean Payton had it going in New Orleans forever, even post-Breeze going on. So it's like, it's one of those deals where, I don't know, I think it's harder than ever, but I think there are ways to do it. And eventually, I mean, it's going to be, you're going to have to find some way of creating a process or a culture where you can get two guys immediately and have them come together, because it's not going to get any better from here on out, or easier from here on out.
Win.
Yeah, but the culture of the process precedes the win.
I know.
That's what every coach talks about. That's what every single coach talks about this week.
Brand. Like, I think once again it goes back to the whole coaching thing. Who is the face of these major organizations, these football teams? It's the football coach.
Yeah.
Like, I think Ole Miss, I think Lane Kiffin, I think Alabama, I think Nick Saban, I think Georgia, I think Kirby Smart. Like,
that's what I'm saying. So that's the only part I disagree with Lane, because they are the culture.
They are the culture. And I think there is an expectation when you sign to go to LSU or Ole Miss, because of the brands in which the SEC has when it comes to head coaches. There is a certain expectation that a transfer comes in thinking that this is what the culture is going to be like. But it's still, you're talking about 18 and 20-year-old kids that, are free thinking more now than ever and have their own brands that they want to build because of social media and everything else. That it does tend to clash a little bit more. But I don't know. I don't have an answer for it right now. It is a struggle. I would say a struggle more for the mid-tier teams than the big teams.
Yeah, I get that. I would say that I think there's probably some value to be gained by going and picking the brains of some of those long-time NFL greats. If you can get look, Lane can go chop it up. Pete Carroll, just a couple of USC coaches, Just chop it up. Look at him, dude. Okay, real quick on the teams that were here today, Aaron. Tennessee, I feel like, is clearly going to be the second best team in the East. Maybe I'm giving too much credit too early. I expect them to win 10 games again this season. I think their over-unders are like 8.5 or something. I think Jake picked Kentucky to finish second on our morning show today. Where are you at with Tennessee? Because I don't like, when I break down the East, there's Georgia, tier of its own, Tennessee, tier of its own, and then I lump in Mizzou and Kentucky
In South Carolina?
and South Carolina.
No, I mean, I wouldn't. I'm not putting Tennessee in its own tier yet.
Okay.
You can't tell me 1 year graduates you to your own tier,
I can, though.
especially when South Carolina beat you to end the season.
I can, though, when it comes to the awakening of a slumbering giant.
They just got a
program that we know should have. Yeah, and that news broke this morning. The number 8 player in the nation, wide receiver, out of Georgia, Tennessee,
out of the state of Georgia. So, I think projecting going for the next 5 years, I think Tennessee is heading in that direction. I want to see back-to-back seasons. I want to see, I have faith in Joe Milton. I just put him in my top 5 for quarterbacks heading into this season. But he still's got to go out there and do it. Let's not forget, the last time Joe Milton was a full-time starter at Tennessee was a couple years ago when he got benched because he couldn't perform at a high level. So can he string together an entire season as QB1? That's still to be seen.
Yeah.
So I want to see that. Where you look at the other teams that he's going to be facing that are trying to fighting for that number 2 spot, South Carolina has a quarterback that's played a lot of football in Spencer Rattler. Devin O'Leary has played a lot of football. Yes, I know he's on a new football team.
And he gets Liam Cohen.
And he's with Liam Cohen. He's with some experienced receivers. So I would hesitate to say Tennessee's in its own league or tier. I would kind of go Georgia tier 1. I'd go Tennessee, Kentucky tier 2.
South Carolina not even getting in tier 2 yet.
I wouldn't put South Carolina in tier 2.
Damn.
I wouldn't put South Carolina in tier 2.
Damn. So South Carolina's they're slumming it with Mizzou and Vandy. They're slumming it with Mizzou, I suppose. I'm going to say Vandy's getting there.
I would say with
tier. Yeah.
And Florida, I guess heading the season, Florida.
Oh,
yeah. We keep forgetting about Florida. I mean, there's just amazing how much a brand like Florida is that should have been a takeaway. We don't. It has been
That should be
so
one big thing. Yeah, that's exactly. I want to go back and change the
entire week.
takeaway.
Which is good though. I think it's good.
If you're a Florida fan,
no. If you're on at Florida right now in any capacity, the fact that no one is talking about you is a good thing because people are saying that it's such a rebuild that we don't have any expectations for Florida this year. No,
which is weird though, because we did just witness Brian Kelly completely rebuild an LSU team in one off season. And like nowadays more than ever, you can rebuild. And look, if Florida's had recruiting wins for sure. They just flipped a big wide receiver from Florida State, I believe it was. So like, there's I know there's momentum on the recruiting trail, but yeah, I guess I'm just wondering a bit why it is that they're being largely ignored and getting kind of a free pass in a day and age where, in theory, it's never been a better time.
Yeah, but LSU was kind of ignored and
was true.
To lose. LSU was last year. This time was picked to be the worst team in the SEC West.
That's a good point.
And look what happened. So Florida fans,
maybe it's a good thing that
Florida fans, rest assured, it can happen. Don't think it is, but it could happen. But that's our tier. Georgia tier 1. Yeah. Georgia tier 1, Tennessee, Kentucky in that tier 2.
Okay.
Missouri, South Carolina, Florida in the next tier.
And then Vandy.
And
its own tier.
Are we missing someone?
No, I think that's a good breakdown. I think that makes sense. I think the only thing that I think about Tennessee that still feels different than everybody else not named Georgia is the potential just feels so much bigger. Like, I don't care how good Shane Beamer gets at South Carolina. Like I said, I really like him. It's hard to ever really feel there's championship potential there. I think I could say the same thing for Mizzou. I would say the same thing for Kentucky. And I know a lot of Kentucky fans maybe would want to really disagree with that. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I am. But like Tennessee, I can see Tennessee winning championships.
Yeah, I can.
And they have the resources to do so. But they have to continue to be able to overcome is geographical disadvantage, right? Being in a state that doesn't produce those. Georgia produces a ton of players like we just talked about. So we'll see if Tennessee can get back to where they were. And man, you know what? Maybe just I'm 34, and when I was a kid, like Tennessee was friggin' awesome every year. And so like I'm used to seeing them potentially win championships and play for SEC championships. Who else was up today? We have Ole Miss.
And a little bit already.
I think they had Ole Miss finish in fourth in the West.
Yep.
Right now, right behind A&M.
It was impressive seeing Judkins. Judkins was here representing, only sophomore here today. I thought he looked good. I asked Lane about, the quarterback situation a little bit, and he talked about Jaxson Dart, and it was interesting because I also talked to Spencer Rattler from South Carolina about this. People think it's so easy. Oh, I'm a great quarterback. I can just pick up and go somewhere else and be elite. Let's not forget, Caleb Williams had the benefit of going with his head coach from Oklahoma to Southern Cal, knew the system, and was able to continue to progress. Going from one system to the next is like learning a new language. You're learning a new way to call plays, so you have to get confidence just being able to spit out a play to your teammates. New footwork, new way to read. He went from an offense that was more progression-based at Oklahoma, that obviously we know is very different, to an offense that was more single high, two high read. So there was an adjustment period that had to be made. I know they went and got a new offense coordinator this offseason, but according to Shane Beamer, they kept the offense very similar when it comes to terminology, the concepts, the way he reads it. A couple tweaks here or there, but nothing major. So for Spencer Rattler, it should be an easy progression. So bringing that back to Dart, he went from USC, which was a very different offense, to Lane Kiffin. It wasn't going to happen overnight. And let's not forget, he was a freshman and only a sophomore last year, so he's still a young quarterback in a brand new system. So he hit on all those things, which I kind of know being a quarterback. The way he discussed that and discussed Dart, to me, reaffirmed the fact that Jaxson Dart will be the starting quarterback.
I'm going to say, so him and Dart sound like the relationship has flourished a bit. Whereas it looked like it was pretty much, I thought Jaxson Dart was out of the when Spencer Sanders and Walker Howard transfer in again. We all thought that, you don't do that unless you already have some knowledge. So shout out Jaxson Dart, man. You're always telling people to toughen the buck up nowadays. I looked at Jaxson Dart.
I hope he falls.
Some competition came in, and what did he do? He stuck around. He fucking won the job.
He is a skill set. He's got the arm. He's got the accuracy. He's got the footwork. Over 700 yards rushing last year. The crazy stat is Ole Miss, 250 yards rushing per game last year. They ran more yards per game than Navy.
Yeah.
They were third in the country to two other triple option teams.
Damn.
Crazy.
What Judkins have, 16 touchdowns?
Four of their offensive linemen, quarterback, tight end, running back, maybe the best running back in the country.
And P.
Gill at the receiver position. They got some transfer receivers as well.
Bring in P. Golden.
P. Golden in on defense. They're not a team that's not getting talked enough about. I think they can make some big way.
Do you think they should be third in the West? Okay, let's tier the West in, and we'll close it out that way. We'll tier the West.
Alabama, LSU, tier 1.
Yes.
I would say A&M, Ole Miss, and I'll throw Arkansas in there. That next tier.
Arkansas in tier 2.
KJ, you got to put, when you got KJ and Rocket as quarterback, running back, you gotta put him in there.
All right. I don't. Okay. I'm maybe questioning a little bit, but we'll accept that logic. And then what? You got Mississippi State, and who are we missing?
Auburn.
Yeah.
Which I would put Auburn ahead too.
So you would put Auburn?
They get more blue chips than any of the other.
Yeah, that's true.
Besides A&M.
That's true. So are we talking about the? See, but okay. So here we go. Okay, so Alabama, LSU, Ole Miss, A&M, Auburn, and who else did we say was in there? Arkansas. And then at the bottom, Mississippi State.
The West is great.
Yeah, the West is great.
You just said it. Every team is over the 30.
Because honestly, this is a shitty tier list because I feel like we actually have to put Mississippi State in that same tier as well. There's no reason why Mississippi State shouldn't be in that tier when they were third last year and they returned their quarterback and they get a new system.
It's 2-2.
Yeah.
There is, man, it is a heap of talent in that. And then there's two teams in that tier 2, at least one in A&M who has enough talent to be. Let's not forget A&M the past 2 years beat Alabama, was a play away from beating Alabama, and beat the shit out of LSU.
Yeah.
So, like, they're right near to jump into that tier 1, talent-wise.
A&M's problem it seems to be culture, not talent. But maybe, look, I know everybody talks about the Exodus, but again, sometimes that can be a bit of a good riddance situation. Not even say the player's not like a good guy or a good kid, and he might go in, he might ball somewhere else out, but maybe it was never going to happen there. Like, a lot of times when somebody leaves, it's actually kind of probably best for the situation overall, right? And so you may see some of that with A&M, where the guys, and I feel like Jimbo was giving off pretty confident vibes.
One of the DBs that left A&M with the Georgia just also got dismissed from Georgia. So, yeah, it tells you something about maybe some of the guys that you brought in that just maybe.
Or it's like, he went to LSU, and I haven't heard anything from since, but like Denver Harris, like he allegedly, that was like the smoking weed in the locker room story and stuff. So I think for A&M,
a cleansing was needed.
We cannot grant them the rank of tier 1.
No.
But out of all the teams in tier 2, they're the only one that I see with the potential to actually win the West. I don't think any other team could win the West.
Whoever's editing this film for us, we need a tiers list.
Yeah.
Snaps tiers.
Yeah, snaps tiers. Not T-E-A-R-S. T-I-E-R-S. That'll do it for our coverage from Nashville. Shout out The Volume. Shout out Ellie Mae.
I'm going home.
Getting us going. Shout out the Players Lounge and these mics. Late tonight. Shout out Ryan Brumley, Adam Gracia, Danny Cardenas, Paul Farrington. Shout out producer Aaron Murray.
Yeah.
Getting the film back, dude. Making it happen. Going viral. Honky tonkin'.
Hey, Colin, whenever you want to send me that bonus for this week for producer extraordinaire,
yeah,
we appreciate it.
That's definitely going to want to make them keep us around. Let's keep calling out the boss man. I agree. Oh, and I'll say this. All you Oklahoma fans in my mentions, all you're doing is prove me right.
Yeah.
They're all coming after me because I said that.
All that.
Because I said that, just because I said that Brent Venables took over a winning culture.
He did.
And no, not according to the mental gymnastics champions over there.
They were his talk.
At OU. Which I actually were talking to Josh Pate about this morning, late kick Josh, and he kind of he's like, okay, let's say this. Let's say you asked those same people 2 years ago about Lincoln Riley's culture. What would they think, right? Like when they're going to playoffs and they're winning the Big 12, it's like, yeah, fair. But look, you real ones, I got you. Boomer Sooner. I think you're going to be better in Texas this year. I hope so, actually. I don't think so. I don't know. We'll see. All right, now, dude, Snaps from Nashville. We will be back, regular schedule, live next Monday, youtube.com/@volumesnaps. Hit the sub button, like it, share it with your friends, and then use Google Snaps Podcast, Apple, Spotify. You get it. Rate and review it. And we'll see you later there, partner. That's a wrap from Nashville.